because not only do we have to, first of all, actually, we have to acknowledge the fact that what we have today as young women and girls and young feminists, me being able to speak in this panel, you being able to come to this space, we have to acknowledge what our older generation or the long-term leaders have done for us to come here and be here today and have a voice. So we need to definitely acknowledge them. Thank you very much, all of you. And it's actually what we do, like as young feminists, what we now do is not so different from what they did actually. The issues that our older generations talked about, the social movements, the activism, the feminism that they fought for, the gender inequality issues that they struggled for, like right to voting, like domestic violence, right to decent work and all. Of course, we have these things to a certain extent, but not to the full potential. For an example, right to vote. Of course, we have the right to vote, but do all women have the right to vote? Do trans women have the right to vote? Even if they do, is it accessible? What about women living with disabilities? What about women in rural areas, the physical access? So have we actually realized the full potential? So we, the young generation, are also actually pretty much struggling with the same things, and we are fighting for the same thing, the same agenda, gender equality, but maybe in different ways. Maybe we have intersectional approaches, different approaches. Just like Lopa said in the beginning, actually, we are looking at socioeconomic differences. We're looking at women in all age groups, all ages, like we're having a life cycle approach. We are also focusing a lot on women in all their diversities, people with different sexual orientations, gender identities, and ethnicities, race, and all that. It's a spectrum. And see, when it comes to mobilizing and organizing, maybe like those days, maybe it's not just marches and protests. There's a lot of online activism going on. There's something actually called online activism. That's a feminist internet. Have you heard of a feminist internet before? So if you have been tweeting from yesterday till today about this event, if you have been tweeting about gender equality, your asks and your demands, that's creating a feminist internet. So the Twitter is filled with your tweets, so that's a feminist internet. So we've been engaged in activism and advocacy in that way. So maybe you may have heard that the activism has lost its, it's not that strong anymore, but that's not the case. It's stronger than ever. So what we need to do is work together, and we need to connect, communicate, and collaborate within generations to make our demands stronger, and we can together do it.
Over to you, Emma.
Sarah, if you'd just like to finish up.
Yeah, just to share a personal experience. So when I first started volunteering back in 2008, actually, I volunteered for the Family Planning Association, which is a member association of International Parenthood Federation. And at that time, they had this thing like you have to have 25% of young people in the governance board. So whether you like it or not, you have to have 25%. So I was actually not sure from the things I've heard about tokenism and things that I've experienced in previous forums, I was not sure how this was going to work out. But I was not only a part of the governance board, but I was also a part of the IEC team, the Information Education Communication team, the finance team, the human resources team. I was actually, as a young person who was 19 or 20, advising or looking at the management and the messages that we were delivering as an organization. So that was a great start for me. And it actually gave me a lot of opportunities to represent the country, and actually they shared the power with young people, with young women equally. So I had a meaningful say. And not only that, when we actually, there are some other examples that I can bring up. The Commonwealth is doing a mentorship program, the Commonwealth Youth Gender Equality Network. But we also have to look at not only the mentors aspect, so there's mentor and mentee. So most of the time, the mentor is supposed to be like an older person or an experienced person. And the mentee would always be like a young person listening to everything that the mentor is saying. But we're trying to break this method, and we are trying to have it has to be mutual. For an example, the use of technology, it's very big, it's huge among young people. So the mentors or the older generation actually should know about the use of technology. If not, how are they going to carry these messages? Still, the decision makers in civil society, companies, corporates, political forums, it's mostly the older generation, older women, older men. So unless they get the hang of it, how are they going to take our issues forward? How are we going to get an equal space? How are they going to advocate for us to get an equal space in those forums? So in a way, they have to sort of give up the power that they have to create a space for young people. And as young people, we should not wait for that. We should also claim our space. We should also, like they said yesterday, somebody said yesterday, Amika, I think, knock on the doors and access the opportunities. Don't wait for it. So it's actually mutual.
Sarah.
Yeah, a quick addition, maybe because it sounds weird to say seniors, so like older generations, maybe long-time leaders is something we could all look at, even myself. So yeah. Yeah, this is coming from an experience before, so I really hope it's great that we have a youth CSW, we have a youth declaration and everything, but I really hope when some of us have the ability to go to the CSW and all the work like next coming 2 weeks at the negotiations and everywhere, and even to work with some of the state delegations, it would be great if young people's voices, our input is actually acknowledged in that space as well, and them not telling us, you had a youth CSW, your issues and your asks should be there, why are you here, kind of a thing, because we've had that experience before, it was awful. So not